we're back. Unfortunately, my camera decided to die in the middle of the transmission, low battery. It was fully charged. Okay, fully charged camera battery decided to die during halfway through the transmission. Literally never happened before. But my boyfriend gave me a pep talk. Why am I seeing, I just saw a battery flash again. Like I literally just charged it. My boyfriend gave me a pep talk saying that I really need to just level up my production and have backups of everything, which is valid. It's totally valid for him to say that. I appreciated him telling me that. Obviously I came here with like just a suitcase of stuff, so you know, I didn't predict that I would need like backup batteries to back up if fully charged batteries die. But I guess if I'm going to be talking about stuff that Dark Forces don't want me to talk about, I have to be prepared for every eventuality. Okay, so let's continue. I actually can't remember where we were. So obviously, loads has been happening in the last few hours while my camera battery is charging. And events are unfolding and changing all the time. So I'm just going to continue with where I was and talk about that, and then we'll talk about maybe some of the things that have happened in the meantime. Okay, I remember where I was. Okay, so I'm going to share this reel that I shared in my story. Several people actually asked me to send this to them. So if you don't know about the history of Palestine, this will just summarize it.
I was just calling I was listening to you a couple of nights ago, and you were talking to these people, and they were saying that the Jews did not have the right to gain Israel from the Palestinians, and I was just saying throughout history, the Jews have been persecuted, obviously from the Holocaust, and we were granted Israel as a result of this.
Granted by whom?
From Britain and other countries granted us that.
Well, what right did Britain have to grant you somebody else's country?
Well, it's due because we lost 6 million people.
No. I'm not arguing about that. I'm going to come on to that. What right did Britain have to grant you somebody else's country?
Well, they were basically gave us because of the
But they gave you somebody else's country. That's the point I'm making, Alex. Can you deal with it? Britain granted you somebody else's country. I'm asking you, what right did Britain have to grant you somebody else's country? The Jews have suffered. They were subject to regular discrimination at best and murder at most. The one place in the entire world that Jews were neither discriminated against nor subject to pogrom was the Muslim world. That's why, under the protection of the Muslims, the Jews left Europe. Palestine, that was wiped off the map when Britain granted you somebody else's country, had Jews living side by side with Christians and Muslims for century upon century without the slightest trace of discrimination or violence or pogrom. So, what's happened is that Christian anti-Semitism in Europe, which massacred 6 million Jews in the greatest crime in human history, was paid for not by the Christian countries of Europe that either practiced or turned a blind eye to that anti-Semitism, but was paid by the very people who were completely innocent of that Holocaust, who had never persecuted the Jews, who had never pogromed the Jews. And that seems to me to add insult to the injury suffered by a people whose country was wiped off the map, who were dispersed into exile, to make way for a Zionist idea which was granted to European Jews by Britain, that Britain had no right to give away somebody else's country. It seems to me an all-round injustice, don't you think, Alex?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're not aware of the history, basically Britain had a mandate, i.e. they had a control over Palestine. They were essentially like how they colonized a lot of countries, how they had control over India, for example. So Palestine was one of those countries that they had colonial control over. So after World War II, with the Holocaust and everything that happened to the Jews, there was a discussion of reparations, a form of reparations, or like a Jewish homeland, a Zionist homeland. I'm going to talk also a little bit about the history of Zionism as well. The Rothschilds were actually involved in this. So Britain pledged to the Rothschilds that the Jews would be given a homeland in Palestine. So before, this was in 1948. So they were told that, okay, we'll have like a separate, there'll be an Arab state and there'll be a Jewish state within Palestine. Now, Jews, Christians, and Muslims and other groups, probably, Zoroastrians, Mandaeans, other religious minorities, had been living in Palestine for generations peacefully. Okay, I have it. I'll speak about. I'll provide evidence for the peacefully as well later on, if anybody wants to dispute that. So they'd been living peacefully in that area. The European Jews who were the ones who suffered the Holocaust. It was the European Jews, the Jews of European descent, that were granted that land. Okay, so now they're making a claim on the land. Firstly, Britain didn't have the right to give somebody else's country to Israel, or to create Israel or the Jews. Now that it's been done, people like to take this wild leap that if you say that they didn't have the right to do that, that means that you think that Israel should be wiped off the map. Okay, some people maybe think that. That's not what I'm saying. We can discuss that at a later point. Personally, I don't want to discuss that because I don't think that I'm the person to make that judgment. Okay, but I will stand by the fact that Britain did not have the right to give another country to somebody else. Okay, and this was supposed to be as reparations for what Germany had done. Like, why didn't they give them Eastern Germany? Like, obviously I get that the Jews are not going to feel too safe being next to the people that tried to exterminate them. But it's not really fair on the Palestinians either, because they literally push. What's happened since 1948 is they've just been pushing them out of their homes. It's just been apartheid. I see many people arguing that they were there before, they've been there for thousands of years. You're making a claim to a landmass based on the fact that the people that were there thousands of years ago follow the same religion as you. Like, for me, that's just crazy. Like, just because you have the same religion as people that were there, there's Palestinian Jews are the only ones that can have an ancestral claim to that land, along with also Palestinian Christians and Muslims, okay, because they're Palestinian. Nobody else can have an ancestral claim to that land just because they follow the same religion, especially considering that it was awarded to the European Jews, okay, who had been, who the Germans had tried to exterminate during the Holocaust. So European Jews have Polish ancestry, they have Ashkenazi Jews from Central Asia. They don't have any ancestral claim to that landmass. You could maybe argue that some of the European Jews do, going all the back centuries and centuries, maybe have something like a few ancestors that were from that landmass, but they've been mixed in with European genetics for a really long time. So the ancestral claim, I think, is nonsense. To claim that that's your land because of the religion is also kind of crazy to me, because the Hasidic Jews have already said that it's not part of their religion for Jews to have a homeland. So I'll speak about that. I'll just jump straight to it even. So this is Joseph Antabi, Rabbi Joseph Antabi, who is a Palestinian Jew. And this is an interview that I've shared in my Telegram. It's like a 45-minute long interview. I'm not gonna play the whole thing, but in it he talks about, firstly he states that his ancestry, he's a Palestinian Jew, he lives in Palestine, and he has basically been questioning the legitimacy of the Israeli state and Zionism in general, and saying that Zionism is not in line with their religion, that their religion actually says that they're not supposed to have a homeland, that they're supposed to go from country to country without a homeland, and that they're only supposed to be given a homeland, from what he says, during the return of their Messiah. Okay, so he has been heavily not just criticized by the Zionist Israeli state, but actually tortured, and now he is crippled because of the torture that they've subjected him to. So they've imprisoned him, and this is actually what happens to, you know, a lot of people ask, like, why don't the Jews speak up against the occupation? Firstly, a lot of them do, and I will share from Sarah Shaquille. Sarah Shaquille, she's an amazing artist. She does all these like blingy artworks, but she's spoken up quite a bit about Palestine over the years. I think she's Muslim, I'm not sure if she's Palestinian or not, but she's based in London. But she did this really beautiful post where she shared a lot of the comments and the messages that she'd received from people who follow her, who are Jewish, who are Israeli. So I'm just going to share some of them here. As a Jew who's living in Israel, I thank you for your message and for speaking up. I do think that it's very important to make a dichotomy between Hamas and the Palestinian. There's a lot of Israelis like me who don't support the Israeli government and the occupation. There is nothing in the world I wish for more than freedom for every human being. What Hamas did is unforgivable, and I know that they are not representative of the Palestinian. I wish there will be an end for this conflict. I wish humanity would win. I have family in Israel. My grandfather is a Holocaust survivor, but I would never wish this on any other human. Palestine deserves to be liberated. Both sides deserve to exist in peace. This conflict isn't as black and white as many like to make it out to be. Like, again, I don't really like to use the word conflict, but if they want to use that, okay, I understand that they have a different perspective. They're coming from a different angle, fine. I've really appreciated and respected how you've been articulating and speaking on this whole matter. As a progressive liberal New York Jew, I'm in such agreement that this needs to be about the people coming together to coexist and end the madness. What's been going on these last few days to both sides is inhumane and absolutely horrible. More empathy for the people of both sides, Israeli and Palestinians, is what this is about, not right-wing governments, extremist terrorism groups. They are the killers, they are the people dividing us, when I truly believe the people want the same thing and deserve the same thing, to live in peace and harmony and both have their rights and freedom. Thank you for being so open and good in your sharings. I am Jewish, and it breaks my heart that the people of Palestine have been hurt and that other people wish hurt upon them. It's disgusting how people do not side with humanity and continue to conflate government with the people. I'm so sorry for the hurt you feel during this time, and I'm so sorry that people have sent you messages displacing their own pain. Thank you for all your art. I've been a fan of you for years and always will be. I'm Israeli and I totally agree. What the government has done is awful and senseless. My heart hurts for all the people who suffer, Palestine and Jews. Thank you for standing up against cruel, horrible behavior from both sides. There's a bunch more. I'm Jewish, lots of family in Israel. It's terrible, both sides are being killed. Jews and Palestinians have coexisted before we can again. So I just want to highlight that most people, I think, are in the middle, but we can obviously be manipulated by things that we see, like atrocity propaganda or videos of, I saw a video on Sky News Australia this morning, which really upset me, where they were showing footage from a mass protest, a pro-Palestinian protest in Sydney, and they were like, look, they're all chanting F the J, I don't want to say the words, okay, because it's just horrible, or gas the J, which is just horrific. But when I looked at the footage, to me, I'm sorry, but I just think that looks fake, okay, because they've got it was taken from a really wide angle. I'll see if I can find the link and post it. I'll post the link. I'm probably not going to post the actual footage, but you can check it yourself, okay. They're not showing people's faces, so you can't see if they're actually chanting that. Like, some of the footage is taken from behind, and then the voice is over the top. So they can easily create that with AI. You've got to be super skeptical of a lot of things that are being shared. Do you remember during the pandemic when they were sharing, people collapsing in the street in China? I saw other people that were sharing, oh look, there's people in India that are collapsing in the street from COVID, when it was fake, like it was from other things. Like the Indian one, I think it was from like a chemical factory or something, and it was just so much misinformation and actual just fake news. And we know that they've now retracted the statement about the babies being beheaded. They've retracted the reports of women being sexually assaulted and raped. But those rumors have already spread now and are being used to justify the genocide of the Palestinian people right now, okay? Israel is literally, as I filmed this video, is bombing the shit out of Gaza right now. They issued a warning this morning and told Gazans that they have to evacuate North Gaza in the next 24 hours before they're gonna bomb the shit out of it. It's not possible to move that many people in 24 hours and get them to somewhere safe. I mean, there isn't anywhere safe in Gaza anyway. And everybody was saying, oh, the IDF, like, firstly, they're like, oh, the other side is not condemning Hamas. There's loads of us who support Palestine who've condemned Hamas. Most of us have. But I'm seeing way too many people who are justifying the actions of Israel and the IDF. They're just like, oh, well, they give them warning. They give them warning. They tell them to leave. I'm just like, they're in an open air prison. Where are they supposed to go? Like, y'all have blocked the exits. Like, the IDF have literally bombed the exit that leads to Egypt. So the Palestinians cannot leave Gaza. They say, oh, leave. Firstly, I'm hearing reports from people whose families have literally been bombed to smithereens, and I've seen the videos. I'm not going to share them here, okay, because I'm not Ben Shapiro. But you can go and follow some of these accounts that I have shared, and you will see those videos on your feed of actual bodies of children with half their faces missing because they're like dead children in like hospital morgues, or wounded Palestinian children, not like in bodies, actual verified, like you can see it's fucking real. But a lot of them have said that they weren't given any warnings. So, you know, I'm not so convinced that the IDF are warning people, but also, how are you going to tell people in a fucking refugee camp or in an open air prison that is Gaza, hey, leave? Go where? Like, it's fucking clown shit. It's just an excuse to justify their ethnic cleansing. Like, that is what it is, okay? That is what it is. And I think people just don't want to admit it because there aren't any easy solutions. Like, what is the solution to this? If people actually acknowledged that the IDF is also a terrorist organization, the fact that it's a government, a standing army, I think doesn't make a difference, okay? Because it still qualifies according to the definition of what terrorism is. Like, what do you do with that? Like, what do you do? Like, what do you do when a standing army is like a terrorist organization? Maybe you do what you did to Lebanon. Maybe you do what you did to Iraq. I'm not saying that that's what you do, but that's what has been done. That's how other nations have dealt with countries that were, you know, waging atrocities. Like when Saddam Hussein was, you know, the excuse that they used for, firstly, the weapons of mass destruction we know is complete bullshit. They used total lies to go and invade Iraq, and they killed 1.2 million Iraqi civilians as a result of that military action, and also 1 million Iraqis as a result of the illegal sanctions that the British and the American government waged against Iraq. The justification that they used, even after the weapons of mass destruction was proved to be completely false, were, oh, well, Iraq's, Saddam Hussein's a bad guy because he was killing the Kurds. Obviously, that is disgraceful that he was killing the Kurds, but he was being funded by the Blair administration when he was killing the Kurds. So that's not why you went in and did it. Like, you went and did it because he was a former CIA agent who was no longer towing the deep state line. So, you know, it's just like what the IDF have been doing to the Palestinians is like completely obliterates all of that. Again, I'm not, you know, justifying what Saddam Hussein did to the Kurds, but like, ethnic cleansing is not okay. And usually when a government is, you know, killing other governments, the international community will use that as a justification to get rid of that military leader, or get rid of that dictator, or get rid of that government and install its own puppet government. Now, I can't see that happening in Israel, and I don't think, I'm not justifying that, okay? Y'all know I'm an anarchist. I think that governments are fucking evil, all of them. The whole institution of government is a system of slavery. We've talked about that in previous videos. If you're new to my channel, please go watch some previous videos. We'll talk about that. Look at Mark Passio's work. He talks about that extensively, okay? So you know, it's, and again, I'm not just saying, well, let's just get rid of governments overnight, okay? Obviously, we need a massive shift in consciousness. But when we're looking at what's unfolding right now, it's very easy to get into polarizations where we see videos of, you know, I've seen several videos that have been shared by these accounts, which, you know, I may share in this video, probably not, of, you know, Jews actually going, oh, we're going to put you in the next Nakba, we're going to put you in a refugee camp, we're going to kill you, we're going to kill all your family. Like, that's what I've been seeing. Like, and the mainstream media is not going to share that. Like, the best you could do to show how bad the Palestinian side are is a video that looks fake, where you can't see the words coming out of anybody's mouth, and that supposedly everyone's chanting this horrible phrase, which I absolutely condemn. But I just don't believe that. I've been to lots of Palestinian marches over the years that I've been involved in anti-war activism, and I've never, ever, ever seen anybody inciting violence against Jews or against Israel. Okay, no, I've never seen anybody saying wipe Israel off the map in any of the protests that I've been to. Obviously, I shared that video of the Hasidic Jews burning the Israeli flag. That's up to them. Okay, like, it's they belong to that group, and it's in the name of their religion and their group that these acts are being committed. So, you know, I'm not going to condemn them, because I don't think it's my place to condemn them. But yeah, do watch the interview with Joseph Antebi, okay? Because I do think this is also why I think a lot of Jews who are within Israel themselves don't speak up openly, because Israel treats them just like the Palestinians when they do, okay? They strip their rights and they basically force them to live under the same apartheid as the Palestinians. Many of them are actually Palestinian Jews, right? And tortures them like they did to this guy. So, you know, it's a difficult situation. Like, I'm not here like providing solutions, because it's such a huge, long-standing issue. I don't really know what the solution is, but I've posted content from a Jewish Voice for Peace and other Jewish organizations that are pro-Palestinian or that support the liberation of the Palestinian people.
My name is Chris Kunzler. For over 5 years now, I've researched Palestine. I wrote my undergraduate dissertation about Israeli settler colonialism in Palestine, and I spent much of my time at university immersing myself in the academic world of Palestine. Recently, my main TikTok account that had around 80,000 followers and over 2 million likes was taken down. I didn't violate community guidelines, I had 0 strikes, and I did nothing wrong. And all that I can say that this is a concerted effort to silence pro-Palestinian voices. Everything that I posted on that account was grounded in academic literature. Every single fact that I posted was verifiable. Yet for this I am met with a ban, whilst Israeli propagandists run wild, advocating for the genocide of the Palestinians, spreading misinformation and making it seem as if the Palestinians are backward savages who deserve everything they're going to get. You may think that I sounded biased, that I'm some kind of zealot who only cares about Palestinians and doesn't care about Israelis. But none of this is true, and if you were to look at the academic literature that I recommended in my videos, you would see that everything that I said was completely true. Israel is a settler colonial state, it is an apartheid regime, and it does subjugate the Palestinian people in order to take as much territory from them as possible. Voices like mine, who actually know and listen to Palestinian people, are rejected, whilst the most vile of colonialist racists are boosted by the algorithm. And this is why the plight of the Palestinian people is completely unknown to the majority of people, because academia is too difficult for them to access, and videos that talk about the academic work are suppressed and they are banned by social media companies who collude with the State of Israel in their subjugation of the Palestinian people.
So yeah, that's Chris K. Middle East. He actually has also given some context to what's been happening in Palestine and the occupied territories for the last year. And he's posted articles and academic research illustrating that the last year has seen like a massive displacement, a marked increase in displacement of Palestinian communities from their homes by armed settlers. Okay, we're not talking about the IDF, we're not talking about the government or the police or the Israeli authorities, we're talking about Israeli civilians, armed Israeli civilians, with AK-47s going around to Palestinian homes, walking in, intimidating them, burning their structures, setting their structures on fire, blocking access to their lands, their ancestral lands. So go and follow him on Instagram and have a look at what he's been posting, to give you some context to the conflict, or rather the apartheid regime that Israel's been waging against the Palestinians. Okay, so again, here I shared on Telegram a statement from Sarah Sidner from CNN. Yesterday, the Israeli Prime Minister's office said that it had confirmed Hamas beheaded babies and children while we were live on the air. The Israeli government now says today it cannot confirm babies were beheaded. I needed to be more careful with my words, and I'm sorry. Okay, so it's just, you know, the thing is, once it gets out, then people just start spreading it, and then, you know, if there's a retraction, it doesn't go as viral, obviously, and then people start going, oh, Israel has the right to defend itself, and it's just like, sure, Israel does have the right to keep its citizens safe and to keep, you know, people safe from terrorists, but it does not have the right to bomb innocent civilians in Gaza and kill women and children, and it doesn't have the right to keep Palestinians in an open-air prison. It doesn't have the right to occupy Palestinian lands illegally, intimidate people, push them out of their homes, burn their olive groves. Like, I've said this before, people are literally messaging me stuff as I'm filming this video, and yeah, like, I might have to do another video. So the Jewish Voice for Peace, okay, so there are Jews who are speaking up for the Palestinian cause, and super grateful for those people, and I just wish that like more of us could just come together as one people. We call on all people of conscience to stop the imminent genocide of Palestinians. We demand our government work toward de-escalation, that it immediately stop sending weapons to the Israeli military. A future of peace and safety for all, grounded in justice, freedom and equality for all, is still the only option. The Israeli government has declared a genocidal war on the people of Gaza. As an organization that works for a future where Palestinians and Israelis and all people live in equality and freedom, we call on all people of conscience to stop imminent genocide of Palestinians. Jewish Voice for Peace mourns deeply for the over 1,200 Israelis killed, the families destroyed, including many of our own, and fears for the lives of Israelis taken hostage. Many are still counting the dead, looking for missing loved ones devastated by the losses. We wholeheartedly agree with leading Palestinian rights groups. The massacres committed by Hamas against Israeli civilians are horrific war crimes. There is no justification in international law for the indiscriminate killing of civilians or the holding of civilian hostages. And now, horrifyingly, the Israeli and American governments are weaponizing these deaths to fuel a genocidal war against Palestinians in Gaza, pledging to open the gates of hell. This war is a continuation of the Nakba in 1948. Tens of thousands of Palestinians fleeing violence sought refuge in Gaza. It's a continuation of 75 years of Israeli occupation and apartheid. Already this week, over 1,000 Palestinians in Gaza have been killed. Obviously, it's much more now. The Israeli government has wrought complete and total devastation on Palestinians across Gaza, attacking hospitals, schools, mosques, marketplaces, and apartment buildings. As we write, the Israeli government has shut off all the electricity to Gaza. Hospitals cannot save lives, the internet will collapse, people will have no phones to communicate with the outside world, and drinking water for 2 million people will run out. Gaza will be plunged into darkness as Israel turns its neighborhoods to rubble. Still worse, Israel has openly stated an intention to commit mass atrocities and even genocide, with Prime Minister Netanyahu saying the Israeli response will reverberate for generations. And right now, the US government is enabling the Israeli government's atrocities, sending weapons, moving US warships into proximity, and sending US-made munitions, and pledging blanket support and international cover for any actions taken by the Israeli government. Furthermore, the US government officials are spreading racist, hateful, and incendiary rhetoric that will fuel mass atrocities and genocide. The loss of Israeli lives is being used by our government to justify the rush to genocide, to provide moral cover for the immoral push for more weapons and more death. Palestinians are being dehumanized by our own government, by the media, and by far too many US Jewish institutions. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said that Israel is fighting human animals and should act accordingly. As Jews, we know what happens when people are called animals. We can and we must stop this. Never again means never again for anyone. I love that response, and I think that they've basically made a call to not arms, but a call to for people to lobby their elected representatives. Again, I know governments are bullshit, but they've really. If I've learned anything about my time doing seeking truth, activism, and also being an international model and rubbing shoulders with people of great wealth and influence and political power, they really do care about public opinion. They can't do any of the evil things that they've been doing against humanity without some people supporting it and consenting to it and calling for it. So, if you have time, obviously make time, you're watching this video, right? Just please write or tweet or something to your MP, your member of Congress, or whatever it is that you have in the US, and ask them to desist and stop supporting Israel, and tell them what's going on. Obviously they must know what's going on. But breaking: journalist who claimed 40 babies in Israel had their head decapitated by Hamas has retracted their claim. ISD also verified that they don't know about this allegation. What's ISD? So Beltrue, I just wanted to clarify that I did not tweet 40 babies had been beheaded. I tweeted that foreign media had been told women and children had been decapitated, but we had not been shown bodies. This was my response to reports which had gone viral about the 40 babies. I realized the way my tweet was written was way too short to explain the full context, so deleted it. My headline of my story references is that toddlers were killed. Obviously, it's still reprehensible what they did, just killing civilians in general. But I do think that the atrocity propaganda is it really fuels the genocide. I know this very well, okay? If you don't know my background, I'm Punjabi. My grandparents were children during the partition of Pakistan, and literally the only reason why I'm still here is because my grandmother hid in a cupboard while militants were committing atrocities against children in front of their parents. And I won't go into detail, but what they were doing was the darkest, most satanic shit I've ever heard. And I've spent a lot of time researching satanic ritual abuse, so I've heard some pretty disgusting stuff. And still to this day, that story that my grandmother told my mum is the worst story I've ever heard. And that was fueled, the violence that we saw during the partition of India and Pakistan was fueled on both sides by the media sharing atrocity propaganda and also stoking division by going, look, they want to kill you, so Hindus against Muslims and stuff like that. And when it comes to the political tensions and if you want to call it a conflict between Pakistan and India, I actually don't take sides, okay? I love both countries. I've lived in both countries. I consider myself to be from both countries, even though technically India doesn't recognize me as an Indian. The blood that runs through my veins is Indian, so it's not up to them. It's not up to the Indian government to decide who my ancestors are. And similarly to how they just kind of went, here you go, take Palestine. They did the same thing to us, or a similar thing to us, with not dividing Kashmir properly, with leaving that territory disputed, so we continue to fight over it, because they deliberately wanted to destabilize the region, because that region is very critical for Russia, for China, and the entire region actually. So a lot of this is very connected. Obviously Pakistan has a very what's the word, like love-hate, I don't know if that's probably not the right word, with the US, okay? So like some people have even said that Pakistan is a satellite state of the US, which they've also said about Israel. I think the truth is probably a little bit more complicated than that, but definitely the US has massive influence over the ISI, which is Pakistan's answer to Mossad or the CIA or FBI or MI5, you know, it's the Pakistani intelligence. And also the Pakistani government, you know, I don't know if you're following, but they basically just ousted Imran Khan and have been kidnapping anyone who shows support for him as well. So the situation in Pakistan is really intense right now as well. So it's just kicking off all over the world right now. Here's another post from Middle East Eye. No evidence of Hamas beheading babies. I'm getting a lot of, this is Oren Ziv, so that's an Israel-based journalist. I'm getting a lot of questions about the reports of Hamas beheaded babies that were published after the media tour in the village. During the tour, we didn't see any evidence of this, and the army spokesperson or commanders also didn't mention any such incidents. Israeli broadcaster I24 and the Jewish Chronicle said that, yeah, so this is where the original claim came from. I saw this on Loki's Instagram. If you don't follow, go follow Loki, guys. He's an amazing musician. He's of Iraqi descent, sort of British Iraqi, and has been very outspoken on just colonialism in general, obviously all of the activity that they've been waging in the Middle East, but he's also outspoken on the Palestine issue. Israeli broadcaster I24 and the Jewish Chronicle said that up to 40 Israeli babies were found murdered, some beheaded. The news was picked up by international media, making headlines in many news outlets. During the tour, journalists were allowed to speak to the hundreds of soldiers on site without the supervision of the army spokesperson team. I24 reporter said she heard it from soldiers. Israel-based journalist and MEE contributor Oren Ziv, who was on the tour with other journalists, said there was no evidence of this. And the army spokesperson or commanders also didn't mention any such incident. So it's possible that she was lying. I spoke in Kfar Aza yesterday, didn't mention beheaded babies. The army spokesperson stated, "We cannot confirm at this point. We are aware of the heinous acts Hamas is capable of." This doesn't mean that war crimes were not committed. The scene in Kfar Aza was horrific, with dozens of bodies of Israelis murdered in their homes, which obviously is absolutely horrendous and needs to be condemned. Sadly, Israel will now use these false claims to escalate the bombing of Gaza and to justify its war crimes there, which is my main point, okay? I'm not trying to minimize the actions of Hamas, but I do think that atrocity propaganda is very damaging, as I've stated, and the reasons why, and for the reasons why I've stated. A disinformation and digital media expert said that the unconfirmed report about 40 murdered babies had at least 44 million impressions, 300,000 likes, 100,000 reposts, despite the fact that original report never claimed babies were decapitated. When Anna Delu contacted an Israeli army spokesperson unit over the phone and asked about the allegations that Hamas beheaded babies, she said, "We've seen the news, but we do not have any details or confirmation about that." Okay, so just more rumors, more exaggerations, more lies. You know, like, guys, just please go follow some of these accounts, okay? And if you can handle it, like, you'll see actual videos of murdered Palestinian babies. Okay, so I like this post from Jewish Voice. He's, "To our Jewish and Palestinian communities who are heartbroken, grieving and fearful, we grieve wholeheartedly, brokenheartedly, with all of our beings, all of the lives lost this week. We do not deny anyone's suffering. We hold our hearts open to feel it all. As US-based rabbis, we are watching the crisis unfold, grieving so many hundreds of lives lost. The killing of civilians is always a war crime. We grieve Palestinian lives lost in these days and in the previous 7 years during the ongoing destruction of Palestinian land by the Israeli military and government. And this case is no different. We call for an immediate end to the violence."
In the Middle East, and in particular with Gaza right now, we have some moral responsibility for both sides in a way, because we provide help and funding for both Arab nations and Israel. And so we definitely have a moral responsibility, and especially now today, the weapons being used to kill so many Palestinians are American weapons, and American funds essentially are being used for this. But there's a political liability which I think is something that we fail to look at, because too often there's so much blowback from our intervention in areas that we shouldn't be involved in. You know, Hamas, if you look at the history, you'll find out that Hamas was encouraged and really started by Israel, because they wanted Hamas to counteract Yasser Arafat. And you say, well, yeah, that was better then and served its purpose, but we didn't want Hamas to do this. So then we as Americans say, well, we have such a good system, we're going to impose this on the world. We're going to invade Iraq and teach people how to be dead. We want free elections. So we encourage the Palestinians to have a free election. They do, and they elect Hamas. So we first, indirectly and directly through Israel, help establish Hamas. Then we have election. Then Hamas becomes dominant, so we have to kill them. You know, it just doesn't make sense. During the 80s, you know, we were allied with Osama bin Laden, and we were contending with the Soviets. It was at that time our CIA thought it was good if we radicalized the Muslim world. So we financed the madrasa schools to radicalize the Muslims in order to compete with the Soviets. There's too much blowback. There's a lot of reasons why we should oppose this resolution. In the Middle East.
So, I mean, I've been fucking saying that for years. Okay, and I've had so many people call me crazy, conspiracy theories, blah, 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 blah. But when a white guy in a suit says it, hopefully people believe me now. But yeah, I shared this. Thankfully, not all Jews, not all Israelis or people who support the Israeli regime think like this, as I've just shared. So I'm not like promoting hatred against people that identify this way, but there are some. There are definitely some, and this rhetoric definitely exists by so-called moderates. Okay, so this isn't about land, but about religion, ideology, and the sick ideology most of the Palestinians adhere to should be abolished, i.e. Islam. For once, I like how China does tackle that problem. He's talking about the Uyghurs, how China is exterminating the Uyghurs. Islam is only out there to destruct. If Israel was still Palestine, they would still be cooking their dinner on dried camel turds. I don't even know how to respond to that. Like, you can't respond to people who think like that. So I just thought I'd share it so that y'all can see that there are people who think like this.
The Mossad, the CIA of Israel, that's considered one of the top agencies in the world, how did they allow this to happen? How did they not know? Israel and Egypt have had a very good working relationship together, their borders, their neighbors, for 40 years. However, an Egyptian intelligence official said the Israeli government was warned about something big before the Hamas attacks. This is what the official from AP said. We have warned them an explosion of the situation is coming and very soon. Meanwhile, the office of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called this claim absolutely false. Again, this is a New York Post and a Business Insider story.
שהמחיר יקבל מצום, כרגע המחיר לא יקבל מצום, זה התקפה רבת היקף, אבל הרשות הפלסטינית. זה פחד שאנחנו נתמודד. רגע, אבל אז השלטון העולם יגיד מה אתם מתגושים? אתה לא מפחד מהעולם, ביבי. במיוחד היום עם אמריקה, אני יודע מה זה אמריקה. זה לא שאפשר להזיז אותו בקלות, להזיז לכיוון הנכון. הם אומרים שהם בעדינו, אבל כאילו... לא יכולים. אז אם אנחנו עושים איזה משהו, אז הם... יש עליהם, נניח שהם
Netanyahu isn't good for Israel. He's never going to make peace. He openly brags about it. So this war in Gaza isn't an accident. It's exactly what Netanyahu wants. It keeps him in political power. Understand that that's their agenda and always has been.
I wrote a book in 1995 and I said that if the West doesn't wake up to the suicidal nature of militant Islam, the next thing you'll see is the militant Islam is bringing down the World Trade Center.
So there are how many Israelis? Just 4 Israelis altogether.
One of the top agencies in the world.
Basically, yeah. Like, there will be no peace with Netanyahu in charge. Personally, I just think that there will be no peace on the planet with any of these fucking governments in charge, okay? I've spoken about that multiple times, so I don't know why we're surprised. like, again, if people are like, what's the solution? The solution is that we need to wake up. Like, we need to all wake up and realize that we are, you know, fractals of God's source consciousness, okay? And that the person next to you is your brother. And do your shadow work, okay? I'm going to do a big fucking speech about shadow work in this. Okay, again, the Israeli military is spreading disinformation. Here's how. Okay, spread a dangerous, unsubstantiated claim that the babies were decapitated. We've said that, okay? But I wanted to say they spread the harmful, unsupported claim that women were sexually assaulted. That has now been retracted. Okay, so again, look, I'm not saying that they didn't, but if you're gonna say that they are or that they have, you have to prove it, okay? You have to show evidence at least, okay? It's completely unsubstantiated at this point and used to justify genocide. So, as Israel continues to massacre children in Gaza one after the other, there is no shortage of verified footage of actual Palestinian babies who Israel has killed in the past few days. Despite verified footage and reporting from Gaza that indisputably shows countless Palestinian children who Israel has killed so far, Israel's murder of Palestinian children is receiving little to no US media attention. Okay, and I'm going to retract what I said yesterday about how I felt like the media was being balanced, because I don't think so far with what I've seen today, they're not being balanced. They're like bringing on people who are spokespeople for the Palestinian side and asking them repeatedly to condemn Hamas, which is fine, they should condemn Hamas, but they're not condemning Israel's actions. Like, what the hell? And they're not showing the reports. Like, they're not showing, like, they'll show like some fucking hazy footage that's probably fake of people chanting a horrible slogan, but they won't show like the actual videos of people's faces saying kill all Arabs, kill all Palestinians, you know, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be deceased, as I shared before, okay? And yeah, like, at least be consistent. Okay, since Saturday, Israel has killed over 300 Palestinian children. Okay, it's more, obviously going to be more now. It's been a day since that post was posted.
This is one of the videos that the Western...
Okay, I want you to watch this.
This is one of the videos that the Western media will not publish for you. After the United States and Israel claimed that Hamas kidnapped this woman and her children, this is the translation of the original video.
ما حدا حيسيبها عشان تعرف إن الإنسانية عنا. أيوة استروها وخلوها لما تاخدوها حية.
Today, Hamas publishes a video of its fighters releasing the Israeli woman and her children on October 7th, after holding them for a short period of time to protect them from gunfire exchange. So, will the Western media talk about this act of humanity?
Like, it's kind of crazy to me that people will be like, oh, of course, you know, they will be savages because they're Muslim and, you know, Muslims just rape women. I think a lot of the assumptions that people make stem from that. In my experience, the most disgusting, misogynistic, like, rapey people that I've ever encountered in my life have been Western liberal men. Okay, like, you know, I remember I was doing this one job for Coca-Cola and they forced me to wear a bikini on this job, and I really didn't want to. That wasn't part of the arrangement. I have modeled bikinis before, but, you know, I didn't want to. It was fucking cold, it was freezing, it was winter in Hong Kong. I've got some of the, you know, the behind the scenes footage on my channel, but there, you know, I came out in this bikini that I didn't want to wear, that I'd been bullied into wearing by the production. And all the boys, again, look, the boys are fine, like, I'm friends with those boys, but most of the boys were like wolf whistling when I came out, and I'm fucking cold and, like, not comfortable, and they knew that we were all forced to wear this bikini and that it wasn't originally agreed. Some of the girls were able to get out of it because they have it written in their contract that they don't ever do swimwear. I should have said something like, you need to talk to my agent because I have a different rate for swimwear, and then just told my agent not doing it. But, you know, you deal with a lot of bullshit in the modeling industry, as I've spoken about in previous videos. There was one model on this job who was Muslim, and he is from he's from Paris, but Moroccan heritage. He actually came up to me and gave me a robe. And like, you know, I just found like, you know, I've modeled extensively in Pakistan. As a model, I feel like I was much more respected as a woman in Pakistan than in modeling in the UK and in the US, okay? That I've been repeatedly put in situations that were extremely sexually degrading, modeling in the UK and in the, I haven't really modeled much in the US, I don't know why I said that, sorry. Like in European countries, okay, liberal countries, because they kind of just treat you like you're a doll, they treat you like you have no autonomy, they expect you to sexualize yourself because that's your job as a model, like obviously. Whereas in Pakistan, I felt like it was much more respectful of my boundaries, and you know, if I didn't want to show certain things, they were fine with that. They would always give me a private place to change. Same in India. Like generally in Asian countries, I felt like I was much more respected than in the West. So I will just say that.
As a pro-Palestine content creator, I believe in the Palestinians' human right to dignity, and I am against Israeli apartheid and oppression of the Palestinian people. All weekend I've been told that I must condemn an organisation which I've never once supported, which I've never once advocated for, and which I've even critiqued on my platform months ago. At the same time that I am told to condemn this, pro-Israel voices, our entire Western media class and almost every single Western government has supported Israel's settler colonial genocide on the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip is the biggest open-air prison on earth. 2.3 million Palestinians are forced to live within there. They're not allowed to leave by the state of Israel. Israel controls everything that goes in or out. And in fact, at one point, an Israeli politician was saying that they had the strength or the ability to manage how many calories the people of Gaza were actually having. If you think that this sounds like a dignified existence and that keeping 2.3 million people in this place is normal behavior for a state, then I don't know what to say to you. This is the root cause of the problems in Palestine. Israel subjugating the Palestinian people and forcing them to live without dignity. Anyone who is telling you that you need to stand with Israel right now is lying to you. You need to stand with the Palestinians. You need to say that apartheid is wrong, that settler colonialism is wrong, and making human beings suffer in this way is totally unacceptable. I don't support Palestine because I think Palestinians are perfect people who can do no wrong. I support Palestine because I'm against ethnic cleansing, apartheid, and genocide of indigenous peoples. Because this is exactly what Israel is doing in real time. And those people who support Israel or sit on the fence and say, oh, there's two sides to it, you are complicit in a settler colonial genocide. You are like our ancestors who sat and watched as the Native Americans disappeared. You support these same structures that saw them gone. And that's why I stand with the Palestinian people.
I love his account. I literally only just discovered him a couple of days ago after one of the oracles commented on, I think I posted in Emily's group when my Evernote just deleted everything. And she was like, oh, there's another guy that's talking about censorship, and she sent me his account. So I really want to thank her for sending that to me. Okay, so I'm not actually going to share this particular video because I'm not Ben Shapiro. And Ben Shapiro, like, I thought that you thought that identity politics was stupid and racist. Like, you certainly seem to have changed your tune now that it's like your people being harmed. Like, maybe you want to retract some of those comments that you made about black people or anybody else that felt like they were under attack, that they were being oppressed, that there was racism being waged against them. Because all I've heard from Ben Shapiro is, this is all Jew hatred, anybody criticizing Israel is just a Jew hater. Like, absolute fucking nonsense. Okay, so this is a video of an Israeli citizen urinating on the body of a dead Palestinian, okay? Somebody messaged me really upset saying that there was no warning on it. Like, okay, I did apologize to that person saying, okay, I'll post a warning next time, but I'm now seeing, I'm sorry. Like, obviously, you know, I feel bad that she's now traumatized by seeing this video. But it did say Israeli citizens urinating on dead Palestinians. If you can't handle it, don't watch it. I'm not going to play it here. but it's in my Instagram stories, and I'm sharing it in my Telegram as well. If you want to go look it up, it's extremely disturbing, extremely disturbing. So yeah, that was shared by Santana Raymond, who's one of the men that was falsely accused of the rape of the jogger. It was in that Netflix documentary recently. What was it? Not documentary, the show. What was it called? I can't remember the name. I'll put the name here if I remember it. Where they took those boys and put them in prison for something that they didn't do. Okay, I thought that this was brilliant. Laura Matsu, obviously love Laura Matsu. I love the way that she's able to like summarize very like complex metaphysical, multidimensional ideas into like sound bites that convey exactly what's going on very succinctly. So it's the spiritual war that manifests physical wars, meaning there are hostile spiritual forces, asuras and other forces who are hostile to humanity, who are non-local and who can occupy any human being, institution, etc. Obviously I've talked about this in multiple videos, okay? And so when I talk about like, you know, don't pick sides, when people are like, oh, I don't want to pick sides, like, I think that that's such false-light bullshit, okay? You have to pick a side. You have to pick good over evil. And I'm not saying that one group of people is good and the other group of people is evil, okay? Again, I don't mean both sides. All peoples can be subject to committing evil acts and doing evil against one another. Yes, there can be groups that commit more evil against groups that commit less evil but still do some evil stuff. Just evil needs to be condemned on all levels, and we need to purge it from our fields. That as a healer, that would be my solution, okay? That we all need to heal internally from the trauma, our collective trauma, our ancestral trauma, and come together, be able to stand like toe to toe with another person that you know you've been told is your enemy, and to be able to look them in the eye and shake their hand, give them a hug, and just come together over your differences, okay? That is the solution. Like, I know that people don't want to do that because they think that other people are the enemy, but that is the solution. If you think this is about voting out certain government figures or exposing certain powerful people or eliminating all the bad guys, you are not understanding the spiritual component of it and merely fighting shadows on the wall. Literally, okay? I've done this with some of my fieldwork clients, like, done soul retrievals with them and found that they're like being tormented by demons, like splinters of their soul will sometimes be held hostage in like, you know, certain realms that are literally being tormented by demons. And I found that, like, this happened recently with a client, getting chills now, that the demons he was literally being chained to a board, and he was being tormented by demons and tortured by demons in an aspect of the underworld that was, you know, it was basically like running a reversal in his light body that was like the 10th sphere of the Klepoth. It was running a reversal in his light body. And he was being tormented by demons. And what we actually found was the demons were literally his own projected shadows. Like, so that's what she means, shadows on the wall. You have to do your shadow work, okay? It's our own shadows that we're projecting out. For example, with Tico, the non-local mind virus can insert itself into anyone at any time via their own trauma, shadow, and wounding, just like Agent Smith in The Matrix. Since it is a spiritual war, anchoring the divine force within your own heart is the only source of protection. Along with that, the only real change can happen is if we have a collective change of consciousness. As long as we are unconscious and driven by our own wounds, the spirits of darkness can influence us like puppets on strings. This is a war over our souls. If you can face the darkness within and without while keeping your heart open and soul intact, you can use these times for spiritual transformation. If you can't and instead gaze into the abyss and become it, you become the monster you fight against. Remember, the spiritual war is fought through us, through our hostile emotions and the way we project them onto others, through the way we drain life force from people without giving back, through our unconscious ways of living. If you want to win the spiritual war, look within. Since we are in a spiritual war, your connection to the divine is your greatest weapon. So how that looks in real world terms is like with the content that I just shared of the Israeli pissing on a Palestinian, you've got to divorce yourself. Obviously trying to understand like the historical context of why somebody would do that, as people are doing. Don't like using both sides because it kind of perpetuates the idea that there's like two equal forces fighting each other, which just isn't the case, but I'm going to end up using it because that is just what's, I can't think of another term. If you have one, then please suggest it. But people who support Palestine and people who support Israel are doing like, you know, some people are trying to come into the middle going, oh, why would Hamas do this? Or why would somebody piss on someone? And like trying to understand the hatred. Yes, doing that shadow work is important. And, you know, it is important to go, why would somebody do such a horrible thing? Just like, you know, people who've been researching SRA networks have been doing a lot of shadow work around this and being like, why would somebody do that? You have to be able to go into that shadow without becoming it, because if you're going into that to try and understand why somebody would do it, and then where you start like justifying it or like rationalizing it, that's not where you want to be. Obviously, I understand the process, it does not happen overnight. Sometimes you can stay in that shadowy place for a while before you're able to come out. I would refrain, like when there's like an ongoing genocide, from like commenting and justifying the position of either Hamas or the IDF while you're going through that shadow work process, okay? Because it doesn't help anyone to be justifying the evil actions of either side, okay? You can do that shadow work internally and then come out the other side and still say we condemn this, okay? So I share that content not to be like, look at what Israelis are doing and Israelis are terrible people. That person's actions are terrible and that person should be held accountable, and it's horrible that the Palestinians have been subjected to that by various people. But if you start going, oh, this group deserves what they get because that person that belongs to that group that I saw doing that is representative of the entire thing that's going on, that's racism. Like that is literally what it is, like that's racism. So yeah, from Jackson Hinkle, they raped women. Unsubstantiated claim that the LA Times retracted. They killed that German girl, she's alive. They put kids in cages, those are Palestinian kids. They beheaded 40 babies, Israel denied the claim. They're basically ISIS, Israel backed ISIS in Syria. Like ISIS have never attacked Israel. So yeah, that's some geopolitical history that y'all should know about. This is also very valuable to know that truth is always, your perception of the truth can be subjective rather than objective.
But I mean, I don't know.
They've already cut off the food.
I hear what you're saying, but what I'm saying is
that against international law. It's really simple. Sir Keir Starmer doesn't seem to think it is.
What is simple is that whatever actions are taken by a democracy, it has to be done in accordance with international law. And we have heard tonight from the President of the United States that he has been on the phone to Netanyahu, and both of them have agreed that democracies need to act in accordance with international law.
Pause there, if I may. Do you think cutting off food, water and electricity is within international law?
I think that Israel has an absolute right to defend itself against terrorism.
That's not the question I asked.
It is an answer to the question that you've asked, and I think it's an appropriate one at this time.
Why won't you answer whether you think it's in line with international law or not?
Because I've tried to answer, and I've tried to say that we've already heard from your previous guest about what might be happening on a day-to-day basis.
This is just a typical politician's answer. Like, she doesn't want to answer the question because she knows she'll be held to account later, that it is a war crime. We know it's a war crime. Also, can Israel really, like somebody said in the comments of this reel, can Israel really say that they're a democracy when they have people living in apartheid in an open-air prison? Because I don't really think that they can. Okay, so this is the latest at the time of filming. Israel tells UN Palestinians to evacuate northern Gaza within 24 hours. So that's the latest. Whether they're actually going to be able to evacuate is probably I don't know, remains to be seen. It's probably going to be difficult. We're probably going to see the death toll increase. So we should definitely do a prayer at the end. I just thought that this was silly. Here's 4 TikTok dances you can do to stop the Hamas versus Israel conflict. Oh my god. This can't be real. This can't be real. I didn't even see that. 18-year-olds. Can I please have a cigarette or a bit? Best I can do is war. You voted for student loan forgiveness. You got $6 gas in World War III. It's just silly. Yeah, basically. No, honey, you have to finish your Ukraine before you can have any Israel. Raytheon and Lockheed Martin watching the American taxpayers fund both the Ukraine, Russia, and the Israel-Hamas war. Basically, they're making a lot of money. Funding it because they're arms companies, right? Pink, rainbow, and Ukraine in their bios. Like, oh, which one? You could do both. Like, I wouldn't be mad if I saw both. I'm not gonna do either. I'll just put like a. I don't believe in flags. Like, okay, so I think that that's about it. Okay, the death toll in Gaza is rising quickly. So now more. Hi love. So unfortunately, that was all my camera could handle. I definitely haven't filmed a video that long. I don't think ever. So I'll probably, if I want to do that kind of really, really long video again, I'll probably have to get some more batteries because, yeah, it might, I mean, I don't, you know, it might just be that my battery just can't not. I mean, I've used my camera I've used my camera to take pictures all day, so I really wasn't expecting it to die, but I'm going to have to get a spare battery. I don't know if there's like Fujifilm even in this town. But yeah, thanks so much for watching that and sticking with it. I know it was really, really long, so if you're still with me, that's amazing. Obviously, I wanted to wrap up the video nicely by posting some of the more, the less divisive and more like unity consciousness type content and people coming together towards the end to like end on a positive note, but my video can't handle it, like my camera can't handle it, sorry. So I would like to do a part 3. Let me know if you would like to see that as a reaction, or maybe I may just do a live prayer and we can all get together at the same time sometime during this week and do a live prayer. Let me know what you prefer. Might do both. I do think that a prayer is definitely needed and I'd like to do that sooner rather than later, and then maybe we can do a reaction video later on. But like right now I just need to take a fucking break because I've been doing this for the last 3 days. I haven't done anything else. My flat is a mess. I've got no food in the house. I haven't been to the supermarket. Like I've barely even taken a shower, just trying to get this video edited and out as soon as possible. So yeah, I hope that you're all doing fine. Obviously, I know there's some pretty heightened emotions running at the moment. But yeah, just stay in your hearts. If you see anything online that's really like nasty, negative, triggering, like, you know, calling for fucking genocide or justifying like evil actions, just please pray. Like pray to God, pray for yourself, but also pray for that person, like for all the distortion to be thrown out of that person, or the hate to be thrown out of that person. Pray for the highest truth, pray for the truth to be revealed on the world stage, and maybe this will be the catalyst that we need to actually finally have peace in that area. But yeah, definitely also watch the video from my mentor in particular, Emily, and her husband, Ileo, because they've been going into the kind of bigger picture stuff around all of this and kind of the long game that's been played out geopolitically, like over, I mean, what could have been decades, but could have even been really, really longer, because they go into all of the, like, the negative alien agenda stuff. Which obviously is like a really, really fucking long game. So yeah, thanks for watching so far. Much love to you all, and I will see you in the next video. Watch this space and also my Instagram stories for announcements for when I'll post the prayer that we can do together. All right, much love, bye.